Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Folks, Donald Trump gave his State of the Union address last night, his second one, and a lot of us pretty much had the same reaction as Illinois Congressman Bobby Scott.
We eliminated the very unpopular Obamacare individual mandate.
Trump did talk about African Americans at least twice in the speech, and here's what he said.
And just weeks ago, both parties united for groundbreaking criminal justice reform. They said it couldn't be done. This legislation reformed sentencing laws that have wrongly and disproportionately harmed the African American community. The First Step Act gives nonviolent offenders the chance to re-enter society as productive, law-abiding citizens. Now, states across the country are following our lead. America is a nation that believes in redemption. African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment have all reached their lowest levels ever recorded.
So what didn't he talk about? Well, let's see. Voting rights, voter suppression, racism, white domestic terrorists, poverty, really health and education disparities, and income inequality. Joining us right now is somebody who was there last night, Congressman Al Green from Houston. Congressman, how you doing?
Doing quite well, better than I deserve. Now, I was not in the room.
So you chose...
I was on the Hill in my office.
So you chose not to sit in the room?
I have not been there since he has been in office.
And why is that?
Because I'm protesting the bigotry that he places in his policies. I don't think that I should be there to legitimize what he's saying.
What did you make of, again, him starting out with this call for unity, and then we all of a sudden switched to the Stephen Miller portion of the speech, where it was just hardcore immigration and things along those lines?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to expect unity when you indicate that you can have peace and legislation, but if you have war, you cannot have negotiation. It seems to me that there was a subtle threat in there for those of us who would like to negotiate, understanding that if we don't give him what he wants, he won't sign anything that we want.
We also issued a threat by saying, don't you dare investigate me.
Yes, that's what it's all about, the investigation. And he's been doing this since Mr. Comey was fired. You might recall all of this started when he fired Comey and then went on national TV at prime time and confessed that he was thinking about the Russia thing at the time he did it.
And so when you saw him, I thought one of the most hilarious moments was where he tried to take credit for the number of women elected to Congress, when the reality is, on the Republican side, they have the same number of women in the U.S. House as they did a decade ago. The growth, when it comes to women, is on the Democratic side, and that's because they beat folks who were supporting his policies.
Yes. Well, he's always had a distant relationship with reality and truth. This is just another one of his attempts to engage in his insidious prevarication. But I do appreciate the fact that the Democratic women were there, and they were all in white, and it made it very clear to the listening audience and looking audience that they stood for something other than what he was standing for.
And of course, they were busy high-fiving themselves by saying, wait a minute, we'll give ourselves credit for what happened, not what he's trying to do.
And he, of course, was taken aback. He didn't realize what he was saying, it seems, and that this would be something that the Democratic women would find favor with, the fact that they have brought this great new influx of females into the Congress of the United States of America.
And so, look, first of all, you give one of these speeches, and it's all great and wonderful, and, you know, but at the end of the day, how long will the unity last? But what, another 10 hours? What you got?
Well, the unity can't last because the president doesn't align himself with his verbiage. He consistently will betray those that have trusted him to go out and negotiate deals. It's happened with senators. It's happened with members of the House of Representatives. He seems to have a group of people, most of whom are not in Congress, dictate what his policies would be. Coulter, Limbaugh, Hannity. Those are the people that he really listens to.
All right, and so what happens next? What happens next with House Democrats?
Well, here's what happens next. The conference committee will come back, hopefully with something that we will be able to agree to. But I think that the president is going to use his emergency powers to go forward without the benefit of legislation and engage in litigation, understanding that it'll be tied up in court for some period of time, and he'll be able to claim his victory, take a victory lap, and move on to his next prevarication.
All right then, Congressman Al Green, always good to see you.
Always
here on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let's go to our panel. Joining me right now, far left here, Joe Madison, host, Sirius XM Radio, Atima O'Mara, political strategist, and also Robert Patillo, Esquire, civil rights attorney. All right, folks, let's get right to it. Look, a lot of attention is always paid to State of the Union addresses, okay? CBS had a poll, their snap poll, 76% of the people said, okay, Trump did a great job. What do you think is going to happen next? Back to warfare?
Well, I think what President Trump was doing, this is the first time trying to be bipartisan. This is the first attempt at reaching across the party line, because when he had control of the House, the Senate, the Judiciary, he felt that he could run roughshod over the rest of the American people.
He did.
Yeah, well, the problem was that the radical elements of his own party wouldn't even go along with parts of his agenda. But now that he realizes he doesn't have the power to simply do what he wants and ramrod that through, he's actually putting olive branches pulling olive branches out there. That's why he's talked about the First Step Act. He talked about minority unemployment. So I'll say let's find out exactly how far he's willing to go, because since he's now realizes he can't get his agenda through without making compromises, let's make sure we're at the front of that compromise line.
But he's always talked about minority employment, but there's nothing behind that. Nothing.
No, there isn't. I would agree with Robert that I think that there was an attempt to try and be more measured, more bipartisan looking. I don't think that actually, I mean, as some woman said, it was a black woman, not surprising. And she said, you know what, show me the receipts. I'm waiting for Donald Trump to appear at 12 a.m. on Twitter, because that's the man that we all know. And he was trying to, not show that in his State of the Union. So, he's going to take credit for a lot of things, as we've long known have been under Obama administration accomplishments. But, he's been sufficiently neutered, for lack of a better word, by Nancy Pelosi. He's having the State of the Union on February 5th because she was like, nah, you ain't getting your wall. We won an election by saying we're not going to do a wall, and it doesn't do us anything politically to give you what you want. So, you're going to have to work with us and figure out a way to make that work. And clearly that was the approach he was at least trying to make in the State of the Union. Whether he'll actually put that in action, that's up for question.
Joe.
Well, people are talking as if this man hasn't broken every norm as it relates to reasonable politics. Look, he started off bipartisan, and it only lasted about 10 minutes into his speech. Yeah. And this whole thing of, for example, we would have been at war if I had not gotten elected, and millions of people would have died. That was one of the most absurd things that I've ever heard, and I think anybody has ever heard a president of the United States say. The reality is he started tweeting the very next morning, and he's right back to where it is. Here's what I anticipate will happen. The conference committee will come up with a bill that probably they will agree to, both sides will agree to. They'll vote for it. He'll probably veto it, and he's going to declare a national emergency, and it gives him cover. It gives him cover with Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, because he knows immediately it's going to be challenged in court, as we all know sitting here. But he will say, I got my wall, though he won't be able to spend a dime on it being built. And as far as this taking credit for unemployment, I used the analogy this morning, Roland. If you ever watched a relay track team, the person who runs is supposed to give you an advantage, and then when that baton is passed, you've got a lead. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump's role was to maintain that lead, and that's what he's done. So you got to give him credit, but he also has to thank President Obama for coming out of the blocks fast and being able to get the economy back on track.
He's just never done that.
And he never will.
Yeah.
Well, and again, though, I mean, the reality is this is not a president who wants to have real substantive conversations with civil rights leaders. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to have real substantive conversations with African Americans who are integrally involved in economics, when it comes to small business. They have the big old news conference talking about the opportunity zones. Okay, what you got? Show me something. Mm-hmm. And so it's all talk.
I will give him. I'll tell you, I will give him credit. I'm sorry, but I will give him credit for the First Step legislation. That was a bipartisan effort. Van Jones and others did participate in that. Cory Booker participated.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries pushing on the House side.
Absolutely.
But to be honest, the person who really in the White House made that happen was Jared Kushner.
But Jared,
was Jared Kushner.
That's right.
Right.
Well, and that for me, that's why I say that it's worth engaging with President Trump to see where he's willing to go. Because if you had asked most of us a year ago and said, would he be signing prison reform legislation, even if it's minor prison reform legislation, into law by November or December, we all would have said, hell no. So if right now he's in a desperate situation where he needs allies, where he does not have the leverage that he once had, let's push it. Let's see how far he's willing to go.
Oh, no. On this show from day one, I said we must engage him because we are still constituents. We also are not going to listen to somebody lie and make stuff up and act like it didn't happen. Right. And that's the real issue there. And then also for him, credible people are a group of pastors most we've never heard of. Also, credible people for him are Diamond and Silk, when the reality is we know they don't represent anybody in this country. And so he is going to actually have to have the guts to be willing to meet with credible black voices on these issues. He won't do town halls in front of black people. He will not sit down with black media, black-owned media. He will not engage civil rights organizations. So if he is serious, let's have that conversation.
But if we remember Trump prior to becoming President Trump, when he was just private citizen Trump, billionaire Trump, he did make donations to the National Action Network. He made donations to NAACP.
Okay, that was then.
Rainbow Push.
But
so let's cultivate those relationships.
No.
There.
Those very same people have been trying to do that. There's no interest from this White House.
Right. I mean, they did have the HBCU photo op, but what have the HBCUs gotten since then?
$325 million of debt forgiveness for schools in Louisiana.
Okay. What else?
Yeah.
Well, then let's engage and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, again,
we started with $320 million. Let's keep moving from there.
If the other side not going to return the phone calls.
Let me tell you something. See, you guys get in this thing about tokenism, and that's what he is practicing. Is exactly. So you can talk about, he gave a little token to schools in Louisiana, and I understand. Let's start from there. The problem with tokenism is the person who gives the token determines the value. If I pull out coins in my hand and showed you a quarter, I know it's worth 25 cents. If I have a dime, it's 10 cents. But if I give you a token, I don't know what that token's worth because the person who gives you the token determines the value. And that's where we make the mistake. We've got to stop this tokenism, quite honestly, on both parties. If we want to be honest about it, and start demanding those things that we need and must have.
There you go. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, a lot of us, of course, have focused in 2019 on improving our health, trying to look better for whatever reasons. For some people, they have to. Others, it's about, of course, beach season once we get to the spring, but based upon climate change right now, it feels like right now is beach season. And so all those things are for a reason. People are choosing various ways to get healthy. One way, of course, if you choose to do a full body cleanse. Folks at D Herbs, one of our partners here, they offer a variety of full body cleanses if that's what you choose to do. I did it earlier this year, the 20-day cleanse, and they also have, of course, several that you continue to do. And so if it's about weight loss, if it's about overall well-being, you can try the D Herbs full body cleanse. Now, all you have to do to support, if you want to try it, just go to dherbs.com, DHERBS.com. Use the promo code Roland. Use the promo code Roland. You can also call their number, which is also a number that you can call, 1-866-4D-HERBS. 1-866-4D-HERBS. Remember, use the promo code Roland for the discount when you go to checkout. Again, that's 1-866-4D-HERBS, 1-866-4D-HERBS, or dherbs.com. Don't forget to use the promo code Roland. Folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video.